Hey folks! Lately in our live streams, we've been working on the museum mode for our mobile application for the Zooniverse. Today, we're going to work on finalizing that, making some final changes, getting those changes into master, and then deploying our application. You're going to see a few different things in the video. You're going to see responding to pull requests, making changes based on pull requests. You're going to see rebasing off of master, and then hopefully packaging up our application for iOS and for Android as well. So let's go ahead and get started, and I want to show you the PR. This is our pull request that we've been working on. This allows us to switch to dark mode for our museum experience. I'll put some links in the description to the show notes for our previous live streams where we've done this. But as you can see, this PR has been open for a bit. You'll notice some conversation on the PR, and I want to make a point of that because what you'll notice is that while we have a long-running PR, we also have this documentation of what we have changed throughout the process and why. I think it's really important for us to keep this documentation so that other developers who might want to work on this app have some context as to how and why we made changes. I like to do that in commit messages, as we previously discussed. And I also like to do that by being explicit in my pull requests with respect to what I have done or what I have not done and my reasons for doing or not doing those things. So I've been talking with a couple of coworkers about this pull request for a little while, with the most recent commits having been a few days ago. Today, we're going to take a look at my colleague Will's comments on the most recent changes that I have pushed up 4 days ago. So let's start right here so that you see some examples. So right here is our first comment from the commits that were made 4 days ago. Will ask that we take out style sheet because it's defined but never used. That makes sense. So let's go over to our code. And we're going to open up, where is this? Swipe tabs. Swipe tabs. Okay, so in here, they're unused. I see a few unused things in here, so I'm actually going to get rid of all of them. Control Option O does optimize imports for me. And so now that shouldn't be an issue anymore. So I'm going to comment that I removed this so that there's an explicit indication. Now, GitHub will also provide you with an implicit indication insofar as that if the lines change that were commented on, GitHub gives you this outdated flag, which I find useful. But I'm in the habit of being explicit, and so I just stay explicit on things. Some of these I've already commented on. It's also a good way for me to know as I scroll down, like I've already taken care of this and that. What is this? Component will receive props. This was a deprecation warning that we received that I have already fixed as per these comments here. Pardon. So I'll just say updated. GitHub's being a little slow for me today. I'm not really sure why. Okay, so we've done all the inline things. We just have one inline thing. So we'll commit that, but first let's take a look and see if Will had any other stuff he wanted us to take care of. Overall, the code here looks pretty good. I especially like how the buttons are extended in classifier button. I think everything is pretty sound structure-wise, aside from the few inline comments I've made, which we just looked at. A few items I noticed while running the app in museum mode. In the drawing classifier, I'm able to submit a blank classification without any rectangles drawn. So what he's talking about is that in our app, if you do, so this is the drawing classifier, and you can draw squares around things. But what he's saying is that if you don't have any rectangles drawn, you can still submit. Is this intentional? I suppose there could be a situation where there is nothing to mark in a subject and a user would want to proceed without drawing a rectangle. Just want to make sure that this is the intended functionality. I do believe this is the intended functionality. Examples I'm thinking about include some of the Safari Watch type of projects where you might need to locate animals in an image and there may not be animals in the image. So I think this is intended functionality based on my understanding of the way the app's going to be used. I'll check on that with somebody, but in the meantime, we're going to leave it as is. I can crash the app by selecting the first item in the drawing workflows tutorial. See image. Interesting. So he can crash the app by doing that? Weird. Let's see if it's a project specific, because the specific project he's looking at is this one. Ooh. Undefined is not an object. Oh, this is because it doesn't have an icon. Cute. Okay, this is because it doesn't have an icon. All right. I think this is because it doesn't have an icon. We can verify whether it is because it doesn't have an icon. PFE. Let's go in and look at the drawing workflow. So we need to look at is the no, we need the field guide. Okay. Project details. Field guide. First item. So I bet if we add an icon to this, it'll work. I don't really even. Like, what's a fake here? Fake icon. Done. Sweet. So let's see if this still happens. No. Has to have an icon. Well, that's fascinating. So we'll make a note of that. Let's go ahead and start applying to this. Unfortunately, like you can look at this. This is ridiculous. I can edit his thing, but I can't like respond in line exactly. Let's see if I can quote it. I can do that. Overall, here the code looks pretty good. Blah 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 blah. All right, so let's start responding in line here. What he's saying here is, let me show you this. So we have this classifier button, and inside of classifier button, we have a number of buttons that extend classifier button, and they handle styling for those specific types of buttons. I did it this way because this makes it clearer in the classifiers themselves what type of button it is. Prior to this, we were using that button, and then we had like an attribute to determine how all of the styling should be done. And then inside of classifier button, like this thing was a tower of conditionals with regard to switching on the type attribute. And it was hard to read, and you just had to have a lot more context about all the buttons than if you just needed to like change something in the answer button. You needed to understand stuff in the conditionals having to do with the guide button, the submit button, all that type of thing. Which brings up a more general concept that I want to talk about just a little bit, which is that in the JavaScript community, I've seen a lot of articles about how you should never use inheritance and how object orientation is bad And I just want to caution you against like taking sort of an extreme view like that as the correct view in all circumstances. The bottom line is that an object orientation in programming is valuable in certain circumstances and serves a purpose. And a functional orientation in programming is also valuable in certain circumstances and serves a purpose. And many modern high level languages, including JavaScript, Swift, even Java, and others, give us the opportunity to determine within a code base that all uses one language whether we want this particular piece of the code base to be object oriented or functionally oriented. Pardon me. And depending on the circumstances, you may want to choose one or the other as is appropriate for your use case. In this particular case, you'll notice that I'm not heeding the warnings about not using inheritance in JavaScript. The reason for that is that I have a situation here where I know that I'm dealing with several different subclasses that are all going to have a lot of the exact same behavior. The reason I knew that was because prior to having all of these subclasses, we had one class, classifier button, with a whole bunch of conditionals in it. So I had evidence that we were dealing with one thing that had several different permutations. And so, from that perspective, the evidence for me was extremely strong that it would be valuable to separate each of those permutations into their own namespaced objects that inherited behavior from a common ancestor. Now, if I didn't have answer buttons, guide buttons, submit buttons, and so forth, all using some of the same functionality, then I would not have had as strong of evidence that those subclasses might be extracted out. And so it might have made sense for me to leave it in a parent class with the conditionals until I had stronger evidence. Because when we're refactoring in general, it is less, um, it is it takes less time and there are fewer snafus with separating a class into subclasses than there are realizing that your subclasses of the same thing really should be different things and either combining those back up or coming up with some different class structure. I've talked about this in a little more general terms in a talk that I give called The Technology and Psychology of Refactoring, so I'll include a link to that talk in the description as well. So back to our review here. A few items I noticed while running the app in the museum mode. Blank classification. Yes, we talked about this. Yes. I do believe this is intended behavior. I will let's see. I want to indicate that I don't expect him to take the initiative to ask research teams that I'm happy to do it. I will talk to Laura and some of the research teams using the drawing classifier to ensure this is the expected behavior. And you know what? We can go ahead and initiate that process right now. So let's go into Slack. Like I said earlier, today you're going to see like all everything that has to do with maintaining a collaborative project like this. It's very upset with me. All right, well, I'm going to open Slack on my. Here we go. Yeah. Okie dokie. So let's do. So I know Sam to be one of the people administering one of the projects that uses a drawing classifier, and so she will be a good person to ask about that. Okay, Will Granger brought up an excellent point in PR review. It is possible in the drawing classifier to To what? To submit a classification without having drawn any squares. It makes sense to me that this would be intentional, that we would want, I find examples to be helpful, that we would want, for example, a user to be able to move to the next image if there's an image in mapping. Mapping historic skies, it's the name of a project um, that uses the drawing classifier. If there's an image in mapping historic skies that does not contain any constellations for them to mark. However, I wanted to check with you that case. Okay, so we're going to ask that, and now we're going to come back over here. In the drawing classifier, we'll come back to this based on what Sam says. Okay. I can crash the app by selecting the first item in the drawing workflows tutorial. See image. Yeah, you sure can. Yep. I was able to reproduce this. I was able to fix it by including an icon for the field guide item. So let me tell you a little bit about field guides so you understand that particular piece of the app. When scientists do field work, like when they're going to look at birds or rocks or something, they will bring what is called a field guide, which is literally a book that describes with pictures different types of birds or different types of rocks, whatever it is that they might be looking at while they're doing their field work, so that they have essentially a cheat sheet available on hand for the field work that they are doing. Inside of our application, we have a technical affordance for this called a field guide, because if you are looking at images, for example, of birds, suppose we have a project where we have a bunch of pictures of birds and we're asking you if different types of birds are in the image. We don't necessarily expect all of our citizen scientists to be professional bird watchers who automatically know all of the birds. So we include this thing called a field guide, which would have pictures of the birds with their descriptions and their names so that people understand how to label the birds in the pictures. That is how a field guide is used. Part of the characteristics of a field guide are that there's pictures. So I'm trying to think about whether we would run into a circumstance where we'd have a field guide that did not have pictures. And I can't think of any existing projects that do. So there are a couple of things we might want to do here. I was able to fix this by including an icon for the field guide item. There are a few ways we can prevent this in the future. One, we can change the mobile app such that field guide items without icons still work. Two, we can make it, we can prevent projects from having field guide items without icons. Now, I'm kind of leaning towards number two, and the reason I'm leaning towards number two is that the entire utility of a field guide lies in the presence of pictures. So I'm going to put that. I am leaning toward, well, let me say it this way. As I understand it, researchers and citizen scientists use the field guide to remind themselves and communicate to remind themselves of how things look that they are classifying in the project. So the utility of the field guide lies largely in the presence of a picture. For that reason, I think it would make sense to do number 2. As I understand it, researchers and citizen scientists use the field guide to remind themselves of how things look that they are classifying the project. So the utility of the field guide lies largely in the presence of a picture. For that reason, I think it would make sense to do number 2. We can, of course, also do number 1, so I will make an issue for it that we can prioritize as we see fit. And we'll make some issues together in a second. I just want to get through these comments first. In the swiping workflow, I can accidentally grab hold of the side menu if I grab the rightmost side of an image. Try swiping to the left. What? Let's try that. In the meantime, while that's loading up, let's see. Nothing. Well, so Will says in the past this would be handled with the shortcut option. However, we're phasing this out. I don't know what the shortcut option is. I mean, I can imagine what I think the shortcut option is, but it sounds like we're phasing it out, which makes me feel like we shouldn't do it. But let's see what Sam says still. Okay, so in the swipe, I can accidentally grab hold of the side menu. If I grab the rightmost side of an image. And try swiping to the left. What? Oh, left. He said left. Event hello, Chelsea. No, I am going left. I am going left. What is right? What is left? In the swiping workflow, I can accidentally grab a hold of the side menu if I grab the rightmost side of an image. Oh, he means this. I mean, I believe him. Oh, yep. Check that out. Yeah. Okay. LOL, you sure can. Successfully reproduced in citizen science mode. So we have 2 modes. We have citizen science mode, which is what you see here. And then we have museum mode, which is what we've been working on, which is dark. And you can't. So this wouldn't happen in museum mode because you can't. Oh my God. Because you can't. We don't have the side menu on museum mode. In museum. But we are going to make an issue for this. My computer's breathing hard because I'm recording and running Xcode at the same time, and it hates that. In the single answer workflow, I cannot change my answer after selecting any of the other options. Correct. Let's say happen, because I don't want to conflate be an issue, the colloquial term, with an issue like the we're going to make in GitHub. So we're going to make 2 issues so far. 1, 2. You know what? Let's make these a little more. What? Let's just make them a little more visible. What the heck? No, I don't want it to be any of these things. Never mind. We'll just remember that there are 3. We're going to come back and do these together. In the single answer workflow, can I change my answer selecting any of the other options? Correct. This is a known thing. I will make an issue. So we're going to make 3. If any of these issues will not affect museum mode, I think it's fine to save them for another PR. Yep, we're going to make issues for him. But I want to show you what he means with this single answer workflow. I can't change my answer. What he means is that in a workflow like, oh God, stop. So this is a sample question and I can choose one answer. So if I choose that one, I can submit it. If I choose this, but I meant this, I can't change it. So that's what he means. That's a problem. We're going to make an issue for it. I could knock this out right now, but I don't want to because I think it's a really good issue for like somebody who wants to get involved with this project but needs a relatively limited scope change. So I'm going to, instead of fixing this right now, I'm going to make an issue for it and then I'm going to advertise, I think, on Twitter and see if somebody who's relatively new to JavaScript or is interested in this project would like to pair with me on this issue so that they can get their name on a pull request into the Zooniverse mobile app and I can give them a tour of the application. Just seems like a good opportunity to get some community involvement. So if that's something that interests you, look out for a tweet. A tweet. Okay, so before I submit these comments, I want to make the issues. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to come up to the top. I'm going to open issues in a new tab. Then I'm going to come back down here so I have everything. I'll make this smallified. Yeah. We don't need this anymore. Yes. Ooh. Okay. So we want to make some issues. I just saw a project appearing twice in a single discipline. You know what? The reason I opened that was because I think it's fixed, but I want to reproduce that, try to reproduce that before I tell anybody it's fixed when it isn't necessarily fixed. Okay, so I'm going to open an issue. Let's use the bug report template. Apparently I made an issue template once, which is great. Okay, issues. So there were 3. So let's look at them. Okay, the first one is I can crash the app by selecting a field guide item without an icon. Alright, I don't know. Is a bug report the right way to do this? Maybe it is. In order to fix an issue, we need to be able to reproduce it. To give us the best chance of reproducing your issue, please follow these steps. Please check that you currently have the latest mobile app version. So this is what, that thing about the project appearing twice, I think, is on older versions of the app. but I want to check. In your issue, please include the version of Android or iOS that you are testing on. I don't actually know what he tested this on. But we did it on the simulator, so let's do this. Okay, let's iOS 13. What you did. What did we do, people? I went to a project with a field guide item that did not have an icon, and I clicked on it. When I went into Project Builder and added an icon, to that field guide item, I was able to open it as expected, clicking on it from the field guide. So that pretty much takes care of 4 and 5, my expected and actual behavior. It also takes care of 6 because I explained the issue. It's happening on field guide items without an icon. Like this doesn't have to do with whether I'm a guest user, so I won't worry about this stuff too much. In the issue, please include that is everything we did, and then I'm also going to include this picture. Picture. BEA, beautiful. I would like. Yeah, actually, this is fine. Labels. Yeah, this is a bug. It's not technically a bug because this is not something that ever worked. So the definition of a bug, technically, is a thing that previously worked that no longer works. And if something never worked, then it's not a bug. Like, you can't, like, it wouldn't make sense to say, my ride sharing app won't order me a pizza. That's a bug. That's not what the app is for. That's not something the app ever did. So, in this case as well, similarly, it wouldn't make sense for us to say it's a bug that all these unimplemented features are unimplemented. So, this isn't technically a bug. So, I'm going to take the bug label off. Oh, shit. Did I just lose my. Okay. What all. So I'm not going to label this as a bug anymore. I am going to label it as a good first task. I think it could be. Great. Submit new issue. Sweet. Okay, we need to make another one now for our other issue. Down. We can. In the swiping workflow, I can accidentally. Yes, you sure can. So let's actually duplicate this and back out of that so that we can reuse our information that we included in the other one. So we're stealing all this. We're sticking it here. Beautiful. So here's what we did. I went to a project in citizen science mode. Swipe project in citizen science mode. Grab the item to swipe and dragged until my cursor finger was over the menu button in the upper right hand corner. This dragged out the menu while I was still dragging the swipe item around. This probably also never worked, so I'm going to submit a new issue like this. I think this one probably has to do with scoping touchable opacities or something, so I'm not going to label that a good first issue right now. This is a good first issue. Okay, so we get our things here. Put them in. In the single answer workflow, okay, so I went to a single answer workflow in the app and selected an answer for the first subject. I then wanted to change my answer, but I could not. I could only submit. Once again, not a bug, never worked. Oh no, I did it again. But a good first task. Great, so let's look at our issues and make sure they look good. Beautiful. And so if I go here, do I have some options of good first tasks? I don't know how good all of these tasks are as first tasks. I need to look at them. But here's one thing we can do. Additionally, we can include links to our issues in our comments. Ta-da. Let's do made an issue. Which one is this one? The dragging one. Okay, hold on. Where's the dragging one? Dragging one. Okay, issues. Great. Let's preview our work. Sweet. I will comment. So that's our issues dealt with. Now we are going to go and take our existing changes that we made earlier and push them up. It was literally a single change, which was to optimize imports. So let's make sure that we are only committing the one file. Optimize imports in swipe tabs. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to push that up. Let's make a new tab here. Perfect. Cool. Now we run our test, see how we're doing. You can see that once we push, Hound starts looking at things. That's good. Beautiful. Everything passes. So now we are on museum mode. We are about to do our next step. So let's stop and take stock real quick of what we've done. We've looked at our PR. We have made a couple changes. We made commits. We tested them. We also responded on some changes, and any changes that we aren't going to make right now, we made issues for. So that's what we've done so far. Now it's time to start incorporating code into master. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to check out to master. Your local changes would be overwritten by checkout. Oh, it's upset because I have these changes here. For versioning of the application. Mm-mm. So here's what we will do. We will commit these. So we're going to make our marketing version here 265. And I think marketing version is taken care of in here. And then for this, we want to go to version code 44. All right, let's take a look at all that and make sure it looks right. Because we're about to push this thing up. So we do want these things set to 265. You have to increment this version each time you are pushing a new build to the Play Store or the App Store. So we commit. That should restart our automated stuff over here. And then when we look at our status, yeah, we don't have anything anymore that's like tracked that has changes. So now let's check out to master. Pull it. Now, it looks like the majority of these changes had to do with our dependencies being updated because the package.json is chiefly what changed. Hopefully everything's going to work fine when we rebase this. Whew. All right, so now we're rebased off of master on our local branch. Looking good. Now let's run it and make sure everything works fine. Everything should work fine, but I just like to do a manual check first. So you're going to notice we're going to do this on the iOS simulator. You're going to notice we don't do this on the Android emulator on my computer. We've talked about this in previous live streams, but I have a laptop. It already breathes hard when I am using Xcode and the simulator. Add on to that the fact that I'm live streaming with you, And then if you put another computationally intensive process like the Android emulator on top of that, the computer gets really, really slow and it'll be really hard for us to test things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test it on my simulator, which I already have running. Then we're going to cut a build. We are going to put Android in beta, and we're going to test on a whole bunch of beta devices for Android. We're also going to look at a couple of different test devices for iOS, which will get distributed the tester app um, from the Play Store and the App Store, respectively. Okay, so let's take a look here. How does everything look? Multi-answer question. Can we answer multiple things? Sure can. Looks great. How about, oh, no, no, no. Single answer question. Yep. Good. Drawing. Yep. Good. Swiping. You'll notice this is kind of a cursory check. We're pretty sure everything's going to work here. And so now, because museum mode doesn't have a back out, we're going to restart for every museum mode one that we test. It's a little annoying, but that's okay. Oh gosh. Beautiful. Nice. Nice. Everything looks pretty good. Says push these changes up. Updates are rejected because tip of your current branch is behind. Its remote counterpart. That's right. Because we typically merge in here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm a little nervous about it. You know what? Let's wait for these checks to clear, and then we'll merge in from GitHub rather than rebasing on my local machine when that is over. So I'm going to take a quick break while those checks finish, and we'll be back in a few minutes. What's up, people? Our checks passed, which means that we are now ready to merge. I do want to warn you, I got this protein bar. The package kind of crinkles, so you might hear some crinkling. I will try to limit it, but I will not eliminate it entirely because I am hungry. Anyway, so our checks have passed. We're ready to merge in. I do want to show you, I got a response on the question that we asked Sam. I think we've got enough oversight. So basically, she's saying she doesn't think that mapping historic skies specifically is gonna have images without constellations in it. However, she thinks it's okay to leave it as is. Our retirement limit is high enough that empty classifications won't cause things to retire too early. That meaning we don't show images to users anymore. We don't show the image to a citizen scientist if we've already had, like, say, 25 other citizen scientists classify it. At that point, it's more valuable for us to have the citizen scientist look at an image that has not already been classified so much. 25 is the classification limit in that example. For this particular project, we're releasing it in a museum. We set the classification limit really, really high so that images don't stop getting shown to people just because a whole bunch of people have already seen it. That's what she's saying. We're planning to leave it this way for the first month or so we can check the effects as we get some engagement in the exhibit. So, what we'll do is we'll take a look at the kind of results that we're getting with this project after it's been in the museum for a month. And then at that point, we can determine based on that data what changes we need to make, which may include software changes or may include changes to the way that we direct people to use projects or build projects. I said, sounds good to me. I'm also thinking about potential safari projects and whatnot that might ask people to mark animals in images where no animals appear. That being an example of a project where this functionality would be necessary. When I'm thinking about the functionality in a software project lately, I've been thinking a lot about grace as a descriptor. That is, I want to ensure that my software is giving grace to people. It is gracefully handling the situations that we might not have anticipated, or it's gracefully handling situations where our users, our citizen scientists in this case, may need to tell us things or do things that aren't necessarily the workflow that we pictured. An example of the absence of this is something that we saw in this app earlier, where clicking on a field guide item without an icon in it causes the app to crash. In that case, the app is not handling things gracefully. It is not treating our researchers with grace. And so we created an issue so that we can fix that in the future. Grace in software design is something that I talk a fair amount with Avdi Grimm about. And so, if that is a concept that interests you, I highly recommend taking a look at some of his work as well. He runs a site called Ruby Tapas. He also speaks fairly regularly at conferences and on podcasts. And he does some pair programming that he records with Jessica Kerr. And they talk about this concept some as well. They're also just fantastic to watch. Their dynamic is great. They're both excellent programmers. So if you get an opportunity, definitely check that out. I will include links in either the description or the show notes. Okay, so back over here. All our checks have passed. We're going to, pardon me, we're going to merge this in. Merge. This change being requested is referring to a comment up here. So, this is a very handy method. You know what? It's pointing something out that I missed. We missed something here. I was referring to line 129, where each item is referred to as a row. This we've already dealt with. Maybe I didn't miss something. So some of these things have just always been like this. Let's merge in. Confirm. Merging, merging, merging! Pull request successfully merged and closed. Some people really need branches deleted. I know Jess Frizzell hates it when people don't delete branches. You know what? I have it locally. It'll be fine. Delete. Let's keep things clean. So the reason we do that is so we don't have a whole bunch of branches that have already been merged in hanging around. We're now going to come back over here. Our pull request should no longer appear. Great. And now all of our stuff should be on master. So if we come back over here and pull, we should be good. Let's run our tests. Oh my god, this thing is stuck to my leg. Y'all, I just washed these pants and now there's caramel protein bar all over it. This is really disappointing. I love these pants. Why am I like this? You know what? I don't have time for this. Okay. I will deal with this later. So we're merged in. I want to run it one more time and spot check a few more things. Once again, we're going to be looking at all of this functionality in beta once we release this app, so I'm not too concerned about doing more than a spot check on the simulator. Good. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to package this thing up for release. Now, pardon. I have gone ahead and opened a few resources here about releasing. These Google Docs about releasing, are private to our organization, so I cannot give you access to them. However, there's like nothing special in them. There's no secrets to our deployment process. And then we also have our play console and stuff already logged into over here. You will not need to log into our play console or anything at any point. So that's the way we're going to do this. Let's start with iOS because museum mode is going to be used on an iPad. Okay, I follow these directions every time. I never remember exactly how to do this. So here's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do, we're in our app here in Xcode. We are going to switch from a simulator to a generic iOS device. We already updated the version. We're now going to do product archive. Now this is going to take a little bit of time. We're going to upload it to the App Store. That's great. While this is happening, let's take a look at the Android instructions. I think we're going to have to shut Xcode to do this. Maybe we won't. We can use an already generated APK or go through blah, 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 blah. Start on the branch I wish to export in Android. Edit the default config to increment the version code. This is what we did when we set it to 44 rather than 43. Go into the Android directory and run the bundle release command. Might be a terrible idea to run this at the same time as we're archiving on iOS. Okay. This is par for the course on creating our release bundle. Now, I'm not sure this is going to work. We might have to create an APK manually. And if I recall correctly, with this app we do. So let's take a look at the instructions for that. I would say the name of the game with community management and collaborative, like merging and releasing and that kind of thing, is essentially communication and then patience. Good software engineering involves as much waiting and talking as it does coding. And you see example of that today in what we're doing. Let's see. Is this working? Appears to be moving. Let's see how our alright, we're going. Now when this is done, it's gonna give me a little pop-up. Tells me what to do next. While this happens, let's go ahead and tweet a tweet. As you can see, I don't know how to use Twitter. Hey folks, I'm working on the Zooniverse mobile app today, and I've identified a couple of issues with it that would be a great fit for someone new to JavaScript or mobile development to get their feet wet on an open source project. Do you know someone? Let's take out this hey folks because I'm going to need the characters. I'm working on the Zooniverse mobile app today, and I've identified a couple of issues that would be a great fit for someone new to mobile development to get their feet wet with an OS project. Let's say this for a JavaScript / mobile developer to get their feet wet on an OS experience. Do you know someone who does that sound like you? I'd be happy to pair with you on one of these issues. Preferably on live stream. Please DM me. Okay, now I have to figure out how to make this tweet shorter. I'm working on the Zooniverse mobile app, and I've identified a couple of issues that would be a great fit for a JavaScript mobile developer, and I really want to spell it open source. Okay, the Zooniverse mobile app has a couple of issues that would be a great fit for a JavaScript or mobile developer to get their feet wet on an open source. And let's say outstanding to make it clear. And since there's a couple, this is really plural. Let's say dev to get their feet wet on an open source project. Does that sound like you? I'd be happy to pair with you on one of these issues, preferably on live stream. It doesn't have to be live stream. Does that sound like you? I'd be happy to pair with you on an issue, preferably recorded for my YouTube channel. Please DM. I don't have to say me. People know I mean me. Send tweet. Yes. All right. Here we are. We've got the pop-up. Zooniverse Mobile. Super exciting. Why is it version 264? Thought we'd established that it was 265. I think we should be okay though. App Store Connect access is required for App Store Connect distribution. Maybe I did the wrong thing. Let's take a look at the instructions. Let's see. What is happening with these certificates? Let's Google. Hmm. Quit Xcode completely and reopen it to solve the problem. Is this a joke? This better not fix it. I really need this to not fix it. One thing I do have questions about is 264. I don't see it. Marketing version. Do you see marketing version? We need to find this marketing version. Not any of these. Okay. Let's try again. In the meantime, let's check on Android. Build successful. Great. Let's try our luck with this. Having all this open. Okay, so where are we supposed to go? Android app build outputs bundle release. We actually don't need this open. Wait. Oh yeah, there she goes. She's mad now. Alright, top level. App. Build. Outputs. Bundle. Release. There it is. Great, ready to be uploaded to Google Play. How you doing, Xcode? We're going. Okay, let's go to Play. Go to Google Play Console. So here's our dashboard. We need release management, app releases, manage beta. You must review the family's policy and complete the target audience and content section on the app content page. Optimize the size of your next release. Some information about your app is incomplete. I suspect that this has to do with ratings. Store presence, app content. Okay, hold on. What's it upset about? App content. Okay, how do I add content? Start. What are the target groups of your app? Depending on the countries where your app is available, some or all the users in your target audience may be considered children. You must comply with the family's policy whenever your app is being used by a child. Make sure any content that could be seen by a child is appropriate. Yep, it's pictures of animals and the oceans and space. Only displaying ads appropriate for children. We don't have ads. Only displaying ads, no ads. Making sure your app complies with all applicable laws and regulations related to children, such as the U.S. Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, EU General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. We do not collect personal information other than the username. So it's not an issue. You should either make your entire app compliant or implement a neutral age screen and comply with the policy only when the user is a child. What gets added if I do that? Nothing. Okay. Could your store listing unintentionally appeal to children? What do you mean unintentionally? I'm just going to say no. Target age. Yep. The Google app doesn't appeal to children. No. It's fine if children want to do science. Why can't children do science? You must review the family's policy. We have done this. Okay, back to what we were trying to do. Yes. So let's obtain this thing again. Go. Release management, app releases. Let's manage our beta. Let's create a release. We will drop our thing in. Let Google manage and protect your app signing key. That's enabled. We're going to deactivate this version 43. While that gets ready, this release enables museum mode. Now, museums can feature a particular project in the Zooniverse to allow their guests to perform citizen science right on the museum exhibit floor. That is what this does. Our bundle's up. Save. Review. Start rollout to beta. Come on, come on. While that happens, let's jump back over to iOS. Oh, we have a 265. Beautiful, beautiful. Something's happening. Maybe it was a gift from fate that this happened because it meant that we could fix that version issue. I mean, we could have fixed it anyway. Forced us to fix the version issue. The default. Let's do that. Choosing our provisioning profile. Xcode does try to handle a lot of this for you. It's not always successful, but I guess I admire their effort. Okay, well, while that's happening, let's jump back over here. Release, museum mode enabled, rollout history, seconds ago. What's new in this release? This release enables museum mode. Now, museums can feature a particular project in the Zooniverse to allow their guests to perform citizen science right on the exhibit floor. Now, you'll notice this is a closed beta. There are like a dozen people on the planet who are allowed to see our closed beta. They're all on our team, or were on our team. So my next step with this is going to be to tell people that there's a beta release for Android, version 2.6.5, and that they can see museum mode on version 2.6.5. So I want to get this upload started because that's going to take a second. And in the meantime, we'll jump back over here. Okay, hiya folks. We are in the process now of going to beta release with our new mobile version 265 Museum Mode. I have just pushed up a beta release for Android, and shortly anyone with beta access to our app should be able to download that version. And inside of here, I will reach out to our VP of Citizen Science and say, um, do you know if your username has museum mode access on any production projects? If so, you'll be able to look at museum mode right on your phone shortly. That will be exciting. Okay, now let's come over the following issues occurred. Invalid toolchain. Your app was built with an unsupported version of Xcode. If you plan to submit, or SDK, if you plan to submit, just go to the App Store and make sure you're using the GM version of Xcode 10.1. The SDK is for blah, 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 blah. Or later. If you're using Xcode beta version texture app, make sure you are using latest supported version. More information about supported beta versions. They literally just deprecated Xcode 11.2 6 days ago. This is annoying. Okay. Oh, I have 11.2. You know what? Do 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 do. 11.2 includes Swift 5.1 and SDKs for all this stuff. That is great. Let's see if we can't find. Are there any updates? Let's. Not really sure. That's not going to be it. Let's see. I mean, I'm not seeing an update for Xcode. We could just try again and see if it restart it again and see if that fixes it. Be pretty annoying if that fixes it. yet achieve. I really prefer to just go to the existing archive, but that's none of my business. While that happens, I could whip out my Android testing device and see if this works, but you wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing. So I feel like that wouldn't necessarily be super instructive. This shouldn't take too long. We're done with this. We're done with that. We're done with this. And now we're just waiting on this. What does this mean? I think this means OBS is recording. Yeah. Almost there. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Not a lot of switching around we can do right now. up here for a second. We need to get this new version of Xcode that's not available in the App Store. It's going to take a few minutes. So we're downloading it now. We're going to take a break. I'm going to come back when it's downloaded. I'm going to try to get us all out of here in under 2 hours and 10 minutes, which gives us another 22 minutes. So I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Hello, folks. We are back. We're going to try using an updated version of Xcode to make this work. It's not uncommon for Xcode versioning issues to cause problems with development. So I think what I'm actually going to do is stop the recording, and then when this update is done, we'll try pushing to the App Store again. Because there's no reason for y'all to have to wait around while this happens. So I'll restart this recording later when this is done. See y'all soon.